May is officially done, and with that, I saw a bunch of movies this month, and here is everything I saw. To start off the month, I saw Project Hail Mary. Yes, I have seen it before, but I just wanted to watch it again. It was in cinemas. I was like bored one night, and I was like, let's go see it. So I went and saw Project Hail Mary, and it's still one of the best films I've seen this year. Still hits me in the feels. I absolutely love it. After that, I went and saw Hokum. Man, this is a month of horror, and each one I've seen has absolutely hit, and this is no exception. Adam Scott stars in this film, and he does a fantastic job. He just does such a really good job at playing an asshole, and it's not the first time he's played this type of role, but he just does them so well, which is actually quite the opposite to what he's like in real life from what I've seen. He seems really nice and considerate and caring, but every or almost every role he does in film and television is a bit of an asshole role, and he does really good job in this one as well. I remember when I watched the teaser trailer for this film, there is one image, and if you've seen the trailer you probably know what I'm referring to, and it sold me on the film instantly. I was like, I need to see this, and it still is super creepy in the film. In case you couldn't tell, I did really enjoy this one. I saw it by myself late at night. It was insane experience. I really enjoyed seeing the Irish countryside and folklore. I thought that was a really cool angle to take, considering we don't really ever get films set inside of Ireland, especially not horror films anyway. There's one section in the middle of the film where it didn't relent at all, and I was always feeling on edge in that section of the film. You know how in horror films where you just can tell that something is going to happen or it's building up to it? Yeah, that was like that for the 30 minutes in the middle of the film. It's a fantastic sequence of events, but I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and it's really rare that a horror film makes me feel like that, because I'm pretty good with jump scares. I know exactly, or most of the time, what is going to happen, but in this film, that whole section just felt like it was unrelenting. It was really cool. I think it's best going into this film knowing absolutely nothing. Just watch the teaser trailer if you want to get a sort of a glimpse of what's going on, but definitely give this one a watch, especially if you're a horror fan, guys. After that, I watched Devil Wears Prada in anticipation for Devil Wears Prada 2. I've always heard about this film. It's one of those almost, dare I say, a cult classic at this point that I'd never seen, but I finally saw it, and I actually really enjoyed it for the most part. Without a doubt in my mind, Nigel is my favorite character in this film. Stanley Tucci plays him in the most charismatic and funny way, and it's just so good. It works so well for me. I absolutely love Stanley Tucci as an actor, and I just love the way he portrayed Nigel in this film. Of course, we can't talk about Devil Wears Prada without talking about Meryl Streep as Miranda. She does such a fantastic job. This is probably one of her, if not her most significant role, in my opinion, and I can see why now. She's always talked about in this role, and after watching it, I totally understand it. It was also nice to see young Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt. I thought they played Andy and Emily, their respective characters, really well, especially the young and upcoming people that want to make a name for themselves in this company, and just basically bending over backwards for Miranda to just get a glimpse of her attention. And it reminded me a lot of the dance industry. I used to be an ex-dancer, and it reminded me a lot of what some dancers do and the lengths they go to just to be recognized and possibly get a part in a role. And so I related to them in that way. I've never done that with my career at all, but it reminded me of observations of other people in the industry, and I just thought that was really interesting, that it also translates not only from that creative art but to something like this creative art. I thought that was quite intriguing to see. In the case of the writer character that tries to get with Andy, I guess the writing did him favors because he was, in my opinion, meant to appear like this sleazy jerk asshole. However, in the case of Andy's boyfriend, it didn't do him any favors if they were trying to portray him like this good guy that was trying to be supportive of Andy, even though she was going down the wrong path in life. And I think that's really just the writing of the early 2000s with male characters in this specific role. It just didn't work for me. It's not relevant to today's time. He was not good to her. They were not good together. And I hated the fact that at the end, it alluded to them trying to get back with one another. I really disliked that aspect of the film. Overall, I had a really fun time, and I do think it holds up to today's standards still. After that, I went and saw Mortal Kombat 2. I was a bit worried about this film because it got delayed by a significant amount of time, and that usually means something behind the scenes isn't working. But I was pleasantly surprised with this one, and I do think this one is a lot better than the first one. Having Katana be the main character of this film was, in my opinion, the best option they went with. I've never played the games, but I'm familiar with the Mortal Kombat characters, and The way Adeline Rudolph plays Katana is really, really good. I really enjoyed watching her in every scene she was in. She does such a fantastic job. Karl Urban is Johnny Cage in this film. This was an interesting choice for me because every marketing thing I saw, I kind of disliked him as Johnny Cage. And even in the few scenes at the start of the film where he's introduced, I still disliked him. But as the film progressed, I did actually eventually turn and end up liking his portrayal of Johnny Cage. As you'd expect, the fight scenes in this film are fantastic. I really enjoyed watching them, and each one was engaging and new depending on who was fighting, and it was just really cool to see. I'm glad that Lewis Tan's character wasn't the lead in this film. I didn't dislike him in the first one, but he was an original character for the film, and I'd just much rather see already established Mortal Kombat characters. And so to see him be a supporting cast member in this one rather than the main character after all the criticism that they received with him being the main character in the first one, I think was a great choice, and they focused a lot more on already established Mortal Kombat characters, so thank you. Story also focused a lot more on the tournament rather than Lewis Tan's internal struggle or whatever. I don't even remember the first one. It was literally 5 years ago that I saw it, but I just remember going, oh my god, just show me the fight scenes. I don't care about this original character's story. It wasn't engaging at all, and they really took that on board with the sequel, and they made it much more about the tournament, and as I said before, much more about the already established Mortal Kombat characters. How can I not mention Josh Lawson as Kano? Easily my favorite character in the film. He was hilarious. They knew exactly when to put him in the film and be the comedic relief. He plays him so well. If I was to ever play the games, I would want to play Kano just from watching his performance. He just sells him so well. It's just so funny and easily the best character in the film. After that, I went and saw Devil Wears Prada 2, the much anticipated sequel for a lot of people from my understanding. I saw this on Mother's Day with my family. It was a bit of my Mother's Day treat from me to my mum, and I would say that I preferred this one much more than the first film. Right away, I loved the way they brought Andy back to Runway by making her the chief editor for the magazine. I thought that was a really great way to do it in a very natural way. It didn't feel forced at all of her having to come back and work for Miranda as an assistant, but they actually gave her a significant role with Runway, which lined up with her life being a writer as well. I really appreciated that. Meryl Streep and Stanley Tucci as Miranda and Nigel. After 20 years, they've still got it. I still love watching them on the big screen. And I really enjoyed seeing Miranda having to keep up with the times of like PC-ness, I suppose. And it was quite funny, actually. There was a lot of moments in the film where she was reminded by her new assistant that she can't say that, you can't say that, you can't do that. And she was just so fed up with it. And it was just really funny to see. And she and Nigel are the best characters in this film, hands down. A lot of legacy sequels suffer from not feeling necessary and really only being in it for the money. However, with this one, I didn't feel like that at all. It had a lot of things to say about the current topics in the world. For me, a big one was its stance on generative AI content and how Miranda really wanted to celebrate the human creation, which is what her desire was with Runway, as opposed to what the uppers above Miranda wanted to do with the magazine after they were selling it off to someone else. I really appreciated that, especially in an industry where human creation really matters. I applaud the film for at least talking about that. Even though if it wasn't a main focus of the film, I really appreciated that it did talk about it. There's a fantastic cameo in this film. I won't spoil it. If you are interested in watching it, I would really love to hear who you think the cameo is. And if you have seen it, without spoiling it for people in the comments, let me know what your reactions to the cameo were. The music for this film, I was not expecting it at all, especially after the original one. They use a lot of licensed music in a very effective way. The film opens with one of my favorite Dua Lipa songs, and it sets the tone for the film tremendously well. Lady Gaga did a lot of the music for this film, and you could tell that she was having a lot of fun with this soundtrack. She does a fantastic job of bringing the vibe, dare I say, to Runway, and I really appreciated them. I actually found myself listening to this soundtrack a week after I'd seen the film. I just really enjoyed the soundtrack for this film, and it's well worth a watch. After that, I rewatched Parasite. It has been a couple of years since I've watched Parasite. I watched it in 2020 after it won Best Picture at the Oscars when I sort of started to get into more films as a whole rather than just seeing cinematic blockbusters like the Marvel stuff as a teenager. And I wanted to rewatch it after a couple of years with my partner just to see if it still holds up, because I do consider it as one of my favorite films. And without a doubt in my mind, it still is one of my favorite films. Right off the bat, I'm going to mispronounce his name and I apologize, but the way Bong Joon-ho portrays the class divide between the rich and the poor family, not only with the physical environment around them, but from a cinematography point of view, is so clever. This film is still really, really funny. It's a fantastic thriller comedy, and I found myself still laughing years after I'd originally seen it. Even though I know what happens in this film, the tense moments still got to me, and this is easily one of the best thrillers I've seen to date. After that, I went and saw The Sheep Detectives. I had zero expectations for this film. I remember seeing the trailer for this film and really going, oh, that looks really bad. But I heard a lot of positive reviews online, and lo and behold, they were correct, and I was pleasantly surprised how much I really enjoyed this film. The story for this film is very compelling. A farmer gets murdered, and his sheep have to find out the murderer because the town police officer is pretty hopeless, and it's done in a comedic way. But it also gets quite serious at moments, and I really dug that. I really appreciate when children's films handle those emotional, serious moments with the care that they require. Kyle Boulder directed this film, and he does such a fantastic job of bringing this one to life. He is the director of Despicable Me 3 and the two Minions films. Take that as you will, but this one absolutely clears those two films in terms of quality, and it is definitely worth watching. I really enjoyed and loved how adult and mature this film was with its subject matter. You know, it's a murder mystery, so of course that's not going to be the most kid-friendly thing, but this is a great film for all ages. It reminded me a lot of early Pixar films, and it reminded me a lot of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish with how it dealt with those subject matter while also being a great watch for young kids. I just really enjoy kids films that just know how to tread those lines really well, and this is no exception to that. Absolutely stacked cast though, and there was not a single person that felt out of place at all. Everyone did a fantastic job, especially the voice actors for the sheep. I particularly loved Bryan Cranston and Julia Louis-Dreyfus as the two main sheep, I suppose you could say. They did such a fantastic job. The sheep were very cute, and they had me caring a lot about them, even though they were CGI. And that is honestly props to the writing. The writing of this film is, as I mentioned before, so mature, and it handles those subject matters really well. And I was tearing up in a lot of moments in this film, and it was just a really great watch. After that, I went and saw Obsession. This came from out of nowhere and is easily my favorite film of the year so far. This is writer and director Curry Baker's first feature film, and it is stellar. This is an indie film, and the things that they pulled off with the budget was insane, and it looked like a big budget studio film. The story for this film is incredibly simple, but it is very engaging throughout. Bear is the main character. He is hopeless romantic, and he's a bit of a coward, and he's in love with his best friend Nikki, and he gets this One Wish Willow, and they never explain anything else about the One Wish Willow other than it just works, and he wishes that she falls in love with him, and the rest of the film is the aftermath of that wish, and it's really done well. This film has been blowing up on social media, and a lot of the positive is from Indy Navarrette's performance as Nikki. She is absolutely insane in this film, and I mean that in the best way possible. I really hope when award season comes around that she at the very least gets recognized for this performance, because it is some of the best, if not the best, horror performances that I've seen. It rivals Toni Collette in Hereditary. It is that good. Michael Johnston as Bear was fantastic as well. He is easily the most divisive character I've seen, and the most talked about character I've seen in a very long time on social media. And he did a fantastic job of elevating Curry's writing for Bear and making him such a coward and a self-centered jerk. He just does such a great job. The cinematography and lighting for this film is superb. It is some of the best I've seen for this decade, if not my whole life. It is done so effectively. You can see that Curry has such a clear vision with what he wanted out of the lighting and out of the cinematography, and he works so well with his team to achieve that. It is some of the best, and I can't even describe it. You just need to go see it and you'll know what I mean. The soundtrack for this film works incredibly well for what the story is. It's very synth heavy, so not only does it fit the romantic, or I guess the calmer moments of the film, but it also fits the heavier moments of the film. As I mentioned before, I really love talking about this film with my friends who I saw it with and seeing the discussions online. The characters, the way they are written in a way that leaves a lot of interpretation by the audience members, and I think that's just really, really clever, and that's props to Curry's writing for this film. This film is incredibly rewatchable as well, and I'll definitely be going to see it again, and I'm really excited to see what Curry does next. After that, I went and saw Mother Mary, visually stunning film, and the way the cinematography works with the themes of the film was fantastic. Other than the cinematography for this film, I don't really have much else to say. Michaela Cole and Anne Hathaway do a great job. I did not enjoy the slow burning script at the start though. I'm not opposed to a script that is slow. I do enjoy slow burning films, but this film didn't feel like it earned it at all. It was incredibly pretentious, and I've never met anyone in my life that ever speaks like those two do in those starting scenes. It took me out of the film, quite frankly. Once it kicks into gear though, I did find myself enjoying it more, but I do remember leaving the cinema, and that was the thing I was thinking of right at the start, was how pretentious it was. It's just an okay film. After that, I went and saw Obsession again. I really enjoyed seeing the little subtle things on this rewatch of the film. There's a lot of things that I didn't pick up on in first viewing that just hinted at what was going on early on before you realize, and also hinted at the ending of the film. And this is easily one of the best films that I've seen to date, and one that will be talked about for years to come. After that, I watched The Batman. This is Batman, without a doubt in my mind. This film gets Bruce Wayne and Batman as a character. It is significantly better than Christian Bale's portrayal, and it is easily my favorite live action Batman ever. Robert Pattinson stars as the titular main character, Bruce Wayne / Batman, and the way his Batman is done is just so reminiscent of so many comic versions of Bruce Wayne and Batman, and it's just so good to see. Finally, I felt like someone understands this character. Matt Reeves, the director and writer of this film, really knew what he wanted, and he executes it so flawlessly. And Greg Fraser's cinematography is so good. It is some of the best in his career, in my opinion. There are so many memorable shots in this film. The most famous one being Batman walking towards the upside down car, and Batman appears upside down with the flames behind him, and it's a silhouette, and it's his cape flowing. Oh, it's just so good. This film understands Batman, and it is exactly what I wanted from a Batman film. Michael Giacchino's score is some of the best in his career. I love Michael Giacchino as a composer as well. He does the incredible soundtrack amongst a plethora of other films I really enjoy, and this is rivaling the Incredibles soundtrack for me. I think his two best are The Incredibles and The Batman. This is a young Batman. He's only 2 years into being the Batman, so he's very angry. He's very vengeful. He only sees what he is doing as the right approach to it, which is be Batman and beat up all these criminals and strike fear in the hearts of Gotham's underworld. And the fight scenes really reflect that. They are brutal. They are aggressive. He is very forceful with his punches, and you really feel that, particularly in the opening scene in the subway. And if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. The Batmobile in this film, I love. It is easily my favorite live action Batmobile. It is so good. All of the cast of this film are at their best here, especially Rob as Batman, but Colin Farrell as the Penguin is such a standout. He even got his own show. The makeup that they used to transform him into Oswald Cobblepot, as well as his voice and the way he plays him in not only the physicality, but also the emotional stuff that he does and the subtle stuff that he does with his face, is so good. And he is one of the best portrayals, if not the best portrayal for Penguin for me personally. I really enjoyed that the film focuses a lot on the gritty underworld of Gotham, and the fact that Batman does a lot of detective work in this film is also a massive plus for me. Seeing him finally do detective work rather than just take out goons like he does in prior films was really cool to see. This is an odd standout, but I really appreciated actually how much Rob was in the Batman suit in this film. I saw a post on social media a couple weeks back when the Lego Batman game came out, and they were talking about how much Batman was actually in the films. And in the entirety of the Dark Knight trilogy, Christian Bale was in the Bat suit for slightly more time than what Rob was in the Batsuit in this one film. And so just to see an actor finally be in the Batsuit for a long period of time was really cool. And I'm wondering if in the future, because of the story they were telling with this young vengeful Batman, thinking that being Batman is the only way to make things change, if in the future we will see more of Rob as Bruce Wayne as he learns to become Bruce Wayne as the alter ego to Batman and find out that both of them need to work in tandem for him to make a change in this city. Kevin Conroy is my favorite version of Batman ever, but Rob Pattinson is my favorite live action Batman. This is my favorite live action Batman film, and this, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. After that, I went and saw Mandalorian and Grogu with my dad. I saw this opening weekend. I have already made a video on this, so if you want to go check that out, there is a title card appearing somewhere on the screen right now if you want to click that. But long story short, I really enjoyed it. After that, I did a double feature with my friend who hadn't seen The Mandalorian and Grogu or Obsession. We saw Mandalorian and Grogu first, and again, I really loved it. He also really enjoyed it, and his big takeaway was that they actually made Mandalorian a badass again, which I also agreed with. And then the second film we saw after that was Obsession. This was a packed cinema. This was the first time in a very long time that I hadn't seen a cinema be so packed, especially on a Monday night at 9 p.m. It was really cool to see. I'm just really glad that Obsession is doing very well at the box office, and here's hoping that a lot more studios give young independent creators more freedom and more chances to make these films, because clearly there is a market for it. The last film I saw this month was the very anticipated Backrooms film from Kane Parsons. I try not to get too hyped for films, but I can't say that I wasn't looking forward to this one. I've known about the Backrooms as a concept for a couple of years now, but I've never ever engaged in any of the content, either whether it be the games or the YouTube web series. But one of my friends told me about Kane Parsons, who was the creator of this Backrooms series and who directed this film. He was telling me about the film coming out, and I'd heard about it because A24 hired the youngest director in history, and it's become a bit of a meme online about it. And I really wanted to see what it was all about. And so I watched the YouTube web series, and I found myself quite engrossed and entertained in the lore of what was happening with the Backrooms. It is fantastic, and this is a continuation of the web series, and the way that it's also its own individual thing but continues on from the web series is done in such a cool way, in my opinion. As a directorial debut, this is fantastic. Kane Parsons clearly had a distinct vision, and he executes it very, very well, in my opinion. This expands the lore from the YouTube web series, as I mentioned before, and I would definitely recommend watching at least a couple of episodes before going to see this film. The Backrooms location themselves was a physical set, and you can just tell because of the way it looks. The set design for it is so good, and the way it is non-linear and it's this liminal space, it is fantastic to look at, and it translates so well from the YouTube web series, which was done on Blender, into live action on the big screen. It is so cool to see. Renata Rinsby and Chiwetel Ejiofor star in this film, and both of them I felt did a fantastic job. Considering they didn't know anything about the Backrooms, I've seen in a lot of interviews that they were talking about this and they had no idea what it was. They did a fantastic job with the material, and they did a fantastic job of clearly understanding what their characters were going through and their motifs of the film, and that's props to them. They are some of the best in the industry right now, and they did a great job. I really enjoyed the themes of this film and what Kane does with them and how they tie into the Backrooms. I thought that was really cleverly done. I don't want to spoil anything because I do think going into this film knowing very little about it and only having watched the YouTube web series is the way to go. The soundtrack for this film is very good, and it fits the themes and the tone of the film incredibly well. Kane does all of the music for the YouTube web series, but this time I believe he co-created this soundtrack, but it still works just as well, in my opinion, as the YouTube web series. It is incredibly synth heavy. It reminds me a lot of Akira Yamaoka's work for Silent Hill. Speaking of Silent Hill, this film feels like Silent Hill, not only in its music, but also in the uncanny valley nature of the Backrooms and its liminal space as a whole. Found footage is integral to the Backrooms' identity, and I would say a good 30 minutes of this film is found footage, and it is done so well. It is easily some of the most creepy moments of the film, and I really enjoyed seeing it, and I hope with the next project that Kane does in the Backrooms that it is still as effective as it is in this film. I do think it is somewhat necessary to watch the YouTube web series before seeing this film. Even though this is a standalone film, just having that little bit of context from the YouTube web series adds a lot of context to certain elements in the film that happen. It isn't integral to the main plot at times, but there is moments where things happen off to the side, or there's something on the wall, or there's something that's shown off in the found footage stuff that makes much more sense after watching the YouTube web series. So if you are interested in seeing this film, I would recommend watching that web series before seeing this film. Very cool ending as well, and it left me wanting to know even more than what has already been shown off to us. I definitely need to go see this film again, as there are a lot of subtle things in this film that you don't notice on first viewing because of what is happening around them. And I'm really excited to see what Kane does next with his Backrooms project. It was a pretty big month for films, and for the most part, everything was pretty good. I'm curious to hear what you guys saw this month. Let me know in the comments below. Is there something I missed as well? A lot of horror films came out this month. I didn't see everything, but the 3 I saw, I really love. I'm a big horror fan, so I'm looking forward to seeing more horror films as the year progresses. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.